Yeah.
Wow. Oh, get that one. To move the track.
Wow, he's going.
This was my strong core before the accident. And now. So in the last video, we talked about the injuries to my lungs in our family's car accident. And if you missed that, there will be a link in the description below. But today I want to switch gears and talk about the more obvious injury, the more visible one, which is I'm in this wheelchair. There's really so many topics I'd like to talk about, but I think they'll make a lot more sense if I first explain some of the basics of the injury. So I propose we talk a bit about anatomy, and then my specific injury and how it has affected my core and how that impacts daily life. And then at the end, I have a little bit of a challenge that I hope some of you might take me up on. So let's go. Quick anatomy lesson. And you thought you were on Christmas break. Obviously, this is going to be too simplistic. I will leave, again, links in the description to more thorough videos on this topic. But for today, we just want to know that the spine has 33 vertebrae that protect the spinal cord, that highway of nerves that connects the brain to the rest of the body. So there's 5 regions in the spine. Ooh, look at all those pretty colors. And you've probably heard of most of them. There's the cervical region, C1 to C7. Then there's the thoracic region, T1 to T12. There's the lumbar region, L1 to L5. And then there's the sacral region and the coccyx. Probably most of you have heard of the lumbar one because that lower back pain is what many people suffer from. So in the SCI community, spinal cord injury community, we use these alphanumerical codes to identify the injury level that we have. So one could be a C2, another one could be a T7, another one could be an L4, you know, like runways at an airport or famous soccer players. You know it. So the higher the injury level, the more nerves are going to be affected, the more muscles and organs are going to be impacted. And depending on the injury level, you're going to be in one of 2 categories, suffering from paraplegia or quadriplegia. Paraplegia is when you have some loss of function to the legs, whereas quadriplegia is some loss of function to both arms and legs. So it stands to reason, or maybe I should say sits to reason, that a C4 is going to be a more serious injury level than a lower T8. So another way to categorize injuries is whether yours is an incomplete or a complete, meaning was the spine completely severed or was it only partially severed? Maybe some portion is still connected. Is there some sensation or muscle function below the injury level or none at all? When you combine these 2 factors, where the injury was and whether it was complete or incomplete, you can technically have a situation where a much higher T6 that is incomplete has much more leg function than, say, a much lower L2 that is complete. I think you're getting the picture that no 2 injuries are the same. So I'm a T4 complete, basically chest down. How complete? Well, here's some lovely x-rays of my back before surgery. And then here's some photos or some photocopies of my back after surgery with 2 big long metal rods that go from T3 to T10 and a bunch of screws that connect them all together. And some other photos of my back healing along the way. So I basically can't feel anything from my chest down. It's like somebody came from behind me and just grabbed me from under my armpits and kind of hoisted me up and said, "That's all you got now. Below that is limp." So a normal, typical question that people get when they first get injured, pairs or quads, is there hope of recovery? Is this permanent? Do the doctors think that you can get out of that wheelchair soon? So the doctors will be the first to say there's no way to know for sure. No diagnosis is 100% accurate. They really have a tough job of walking that fine line between saying it as it is, giving what the statistics are, what the diagnosis is, while at the same time knowing that they're gently holding this little bit of hope that the family might have of recovery. I would suggest to you a blog that deals with that art of walking the fine line. It's called The Art of Medicine. It's written by some medical professionals and families of patients that have been in the hospital. And my wife might be one of its contributors. Anyway, link can be found somewhere here or below. In general, doctors will state that a complete injury is permanent, whereas an incomplete injury has a bit more hope for recovery. That said, though, the best way to tell is to wait a year. They say that most of the healing that occurs to the spinal cord happens within those first 12 months or so after the injury. And so as patients, all we can do is just work hard through that rehab period and see what possible recovery we might get below the injury. But at the same time, gently holding the fact that we may not get much recovery, if at all, below the injury level. For me, I've already been out for a year from the hospital, year and a half from the injury. So it's pretty fair to say that where I'm at today is probably where it's going to be. I don't think I'm that different from most of you in that before my injury, I really had never given the time of day to the concept of being paralyzed. I guess I just didn't have anybody close to me that was in that situation. And so I just made the assumption that being paralyzed meant just losing your legs, using the use of your legs, which is huge, huge. But basically that, being bound to a wheelchair. It's so much more than that. And specifically, I want to talk about the core. Unless your injury level is like really, really low in the sacral region, you're going to lose some aspect of your core, your abdominal muscles, your back muscles, and that's huge. First, if you don't use it, you lose it. I weighed about 170 pounds when I had the accident. That's about 77 kilos. And then when I left the hospital 5 months later, I was at 135 pounds. That's about 61 kilos. So that wasn't all due to muscle loss. There's a bunch of other things that happened after being in the ICU for 2 months. But anyway, it's the weirdest thing to be lying flat on my bed or on a mat table, and I just kind of rub my tummy area with my hand, and it just kind of feels like a pool of jello, like there's hardly anything there. It's so soft, feels like I'm almost touching my organs inside. Just that abdominal wall is gone. I sit here at the edge of my mat table with my physical therapist, Anne, and we do these exercises to help recalibrate my body and my sense of balance. And this is a great opportunity to show you how easy it is. Even though I'm sitting here normally, it looks like I'm fine, but that's because my back is really arched out. If it was propped up against something, I would be falling straight over. But as soon as I put my arms that help me balance in, and she lightly taps me, I have no way of holding myself. This is what you would call being tipsy. This means that most of the time I have to do everything with one hand, using the other one to stabilize myself somehow. The only way to do anything with both hands is if I'm kind of resting on something like I am right now on my desk, something that I can use my forearms to prop myself up, or the other less healthy way is just to kind of really slouch in my chair, kind of scoot that butt down and forward. That way, look, I'm not falling, but boy, that cannot be good for my lower back. So when giving someone a hug, I better hold on to the side of my wheel or some part of my wheelchair. Otherwise, if I let go, whoa, it becomes a really cozy hug. I press against the table whenever I eat or work at my work desk. Man, I can't hold my beloved camera to take photos and videos with both hands because I just fall right over. So I have to do everything one-handed, holding it with a little Joby tripod or something. I need to give myself a good gimbal that doesn't weigh too much. I do the taco whenever my wheelchair suddenly stops and I can't get my arms out fast enough. It's somewhat possible to try to imagine what it's like to be without legs, at least for a few hours. Since I have 2 chairs, a power and a manual chair, Sarah once grabbed my manual chair and she rode around the house for 2 or 3 hours. She was trying to do stuff in the kitchen, trying to wheel around in the bedroom, etc. She even did a lap around our neighborhood outside. I was really proud of her, and it really gave her a sense of what it's like. But you can do that, at least for a little bit. But to try to imagine what it's like to have no core, like it's hard to describe because you just can't imitate it. Like it's just natural. It's an instinct. You can't help but use it. It's just how we're built. It takes time to relearn all this stuff. I'm a pretty athletic guy and I've been out of the hospital for over a year now, but I'm still pretty funny to look at as I'm trying to relearn how to swim at the local gym these days. If you're a recent para or quad, please hang in there. It does get better. With time, you become a little bit more comfortable with your movements, and whatever's available to you, you learn how to recalibrate. And that goes a long way towards gaining whatever level of independence that's available to you. And for you able-bodied friends, I have a small challenge for you. It's that time of the year, New Year's resolutions and all. I like how a couple of my close friends like to call them New Year's experiments. Oh, can we do something for a week? Oh, can we do something for a month? Can we continue it? Anyway, the challenge is to pick something that is out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be just anything that either you can't think that you could do without or something that you've never tried before. The purpose is anything that would make you maybe feel a little bit wobbly, a little bit unstable, like it was for me getting used to my body when I was first out of the hospital. Hey, future me here. I forgot to include a few examples. So you could just cook a couple of dishes and only eat that for a whole week. Or you could pick 3 or 4 clothing outfits and only wear those for the next 2 weeks. Or see if you can go without a car for a week. Instead, you can walk, bike, public transport, borrow someone's car, carpooling. And please, don't be stupid. Be safe. I'm not trying to bring any harm to anyone. Just a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of unsettledness. And why do I pose such a silly challenge? Well, it's kind of like the song goes. But you don't know what you got till it's gone. And it's true. You may think me funny, but every once in a while I'm out in public, just people watching like you do. And I'll look at someone's legs and in my head I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I almost want to bless your legs. Do you realize what a gift they are? Do you realize how strong they are? Do you realize how beautifully coordinated they are? They're like a biological architecture masterpiece. It's the strongest muscle in the body. Anyway, why do I feel this way? Because of my situation now. And so if this challenge can be something where if you do something very different, very out of your comfort zone for 2 weeks, maybe it might make you all of a sudden realize the things that do give you comfort, that do give you stability in your life, and possibly make you more grateful for them. All right, that's enough soapbox for me today. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful or a bit entertaining. Probably wasn't though, eh? That's okay. I understand if you want to go ahead and click away, go somewhere else. But hey, if you did like it, thanks for sticking around. And would you mind helping me back? You can share this with friends of yours. You can like it down below. That tells YouTube, hey, pay attention to this. And if you do want to see other videos like this, feel free to subscribe. Oh, and don't forget, if any of you are brave enough to try that unstable challenge, comment down below. Let me know what you picked and how it went. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Bye.